Good afternoon, everyone. How are you feeling? You guys are well fed? You guys go to the bathroom? You guys are ready for this discussion? It's a really good discussion. Welcome to Making Work Meaningful in an Uncertain World. This is going to be the best panel that you hear all day today. So get ready for it. So for you guys who don't know, my name is Constance Jones. For you guys who aren't the locals, I've been working as a journalist here in this market for roughly 14 years. And I am the morning anchor at NBC, both for broadcast and the streaming Peacock channel. So today we have an amazing group of people on our panel today who are not just experts in their fields, but they have learned how to navigate the roller coaster of the workplace, right? Trying to find the balance between being passionate about your work, but also a compassionate coworker and making sure that we get work done. So we're not here for the usual conference chit chatter, right? We're not just here to pass out business cards, or I guess we don't do the business card thing, right? We do the LinkedIn accounts. But we're here to find out real solutions to not just, going to work to find a way to pay our bills, but also to find a source of genuine enjoyment and fulfillment in our lives. So this discussion today is going to work for you no matter what position that you're in. So make sure you grab something to drink. Maybe you've got some water. Hopefully you do. You've got a pen and paper, and just relax. This is going to be a fun, easy discussion today about how we can make our workplaces better. So I want to start this discussion by introducing some of our amazing panelists who are here today. As I mentioned, they are experts in their field. If each one of you could please say your names, say the organization that you're a part of, and also if you could talk about a place just rather quickly where you've worked and you felt aligned with their mission and your own personal passion. Please keep it under 2 minutes if you can. I know it's a big ask. And we'll start right here, Dave.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is David Bader, and I work for Achievers. Achievers is an employee experience platform that engages employees and empowers managers through frequent recognition, feedback, and connection. I lead Achievers Workforce Institute, which is the team of workforce and data scientists that underpin our product and provide counsel to our customers. And thinking back about a role that I had where I felt really aligned to the purpose of that organization, I think of a from to. I once worked for an organization that boldly said there were no jerks allowed. And the spoiler alert is that it was nothing but jerks in that organization. Right after that organization, I went to work for a company called Tembo Social. I was the 7th employee. And it was the first time in my career where I had the opportunity to do work that had an impact on the lives of people. And so that made it nice and easy to get up in the morning. That's it for me. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. My name is Abby Partee. I'm the head of learning and development, certified learning and development for DHL Supply Chain globally. I have been here for over 17 years and basically grew up here, came straight out of grad school. So I think it's safe to say I've been aligned with the mission and purpose of DHL since the beginning. But I guess from a role perspective, the role that I'm in now is helping people understand why we exist and our purpose as a business. And I'll talk a lot about what avenue we use for providing purpose in a little bit. But I would say that this role that I'm in now is probably the space that I love to be in and where I feel most connected personally.
Great. I'm Sean Moore. I'm the Director of DE&I Operations, Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion for Ross Stores. You might know us as Ross Dress for Less. Raise a hand if you've shopped at a Ross. Calvin Klein for $19.99. We also operate DD's Discounts. So if you're in a DD's Discounts, that's also Ross. We're really a financial services company that happens to sell you stuff. And so we really think about how we provide branded bargains to customers who are really looking for brands at a discount rate. I've been Ross for 13 years, and I will say it's probably the job that's been most in line with my values, especially my current role, which I stepped into about 4.5 years ago, helping people to see their value in an organization from a diversity and inclusion perspective, helping them see other people like themselves and being felt like that you are belonging here is really my key role. And I get to see the value of that every single day.
That's awesome.
Hi everyone, I'm Rachel Schneider. I'm the CEO and founder of Canary. And what we do at Canary is we enable employers to set up a charitable fund that acts as an emergency fund for any employee who works for that company who experiences a financial crisis, something that is unexpected and difficult for them to handle on their own. And I would have to say, I mean, this work is very deeply aligned with my purpose. It comes out of research that I had done for many years at a nonprofit, trying to understand the financial lives of working people and what has changed in people's financial lives over the last several decades. And so I'm really aligned. I think but I can't wait to dig deeper into that question because I'm very aligned with the purpose, right? And I'm aligned with the people. But one of the things that happens when you're a startup founder is that you're also head of people, because we don't have a head of people, which is a glitch because I have no people training, right? And all of these questions around how do we create a sense of belonging are really core to how I think about the work every day, and I look forward to talking about it.
Thank you. Hi everyone, my name is Federico Marin. I'm the Chief People Officer for GroupM in Latin America, which basically is a media advertising company. It's the largest media advertising company in the world. I think in terms of purpose, it's interesting, and I'm going to mention this last job because it's been a journey to discover what was my purpose. And somehow in this company, its mission says, making advertising work better for people. And this is what resonated with me because I think my purpose is making work better for people. And but I think I've left it through my career, but it's been a realization probably in the last 5.
All right, let's give our panelists a round of applause. And I want to start with David with this first question. Why do you think it's important to have work that is driven by purpose? And when it comes to fostering culture and purpose in our community, what are some effective ways to get companies and employees together on this mission?
Well, I think for a number of reasons. I think to answer the first question, people fundamentally want to know that they matter. We've done a number of research studies over the last number of years focused on belonging, and we see that when individuals feel they belong in an organization, they're more engaged, they're more productive, they're more willing to recommend their manager, they're more willing to recommend the organization as a great place to work. But I think in terms of unpacking how do you activate someone in a purpose-driven way, it's a little more complicated. As I said earlier this morning, I don't think there are one-size-fits-all solutions for many of the problems and opportunities that confront us. And I think it's also true that if you look demographically at any 2 people who appear identical, there's likely a world of difference between who those people appear to be and what they actually value. Some people view work as a transaction. Some view work as a big part of their identity, and others still view work as a world that they like to inhabit. And so I think that the challenge is understanding the personal why for the individuals that you're in your employ, and then trying to create conditions so that they can bring their whole self to work, whatever their purpose happens to be.
Federico, would you like to add to that?
Sure, of course. I think, we've been discussing through the whole conference about how the pandemic changed things for people, and found the space to realize, so why is it that I do what I do? Not just at work, in life, right? Everything that we were doing, everything we're investing on, time, money, and they realize that they want more from their jobs. We spend a lot of time working from our days, a lot of time. It's too much time for you not to care why you're doing it. It's too much, right? If you start ranking what you do every day, I'm sure this is going to be 1 or 2. And if you're doing it because you have to, right? We need money, we need to provide. If you have to, if you understand why you're doing it, you're for sure going to be happier, and for sure you're going to produce more. Mm-hmm. And I think as companies, if you ignore that, you're wasting a huge opportunity, because you can connect as a company So this is how this job could be meaningful for you, and then you make happier people.
Does anyone else want to echo in? Let's jump on to the next question, because I think this is something that we can all, especially after COVID, companies have changed drastically, right? Like I don't care what company you work for, whether you're at a restaurant, you're retail, NBC Universal. Thanks to COVID, more people are watching streaming content than turning on the TV to watch the regular news, right? So now we do 2 shows every day, one for just streaming and one for broadcast, because companies are changing, technology is changing, and because change happens in the workplace, how do we continue to foster an environment of purpose, right? How do we continue to keep people motivated day to day? And I want to start with Sean here, because working for Ross, right? And the first thing I think of is Ross is always filled to capacity. Like my mom goes to Ross every other day to see what's new. But then there are others and change makers saying, well, Amazon is the way of the future. You know, that's where people are shopping online. Let's talk about that. How do we make sure that the purpose of the company still aligns with the employees, despite the changing environments, despite, you know, the reorganizations, the changes in technology? So if we could start there.
So just in general, and we were just talking about this earlier before we came out about retail and what it means to be a brick and mortar store in the age of easy convenience from online shopping. What online shopping cannot deliver for our typical customer who's of median income, working during the day, maybe 1 or 2 jobs potentially, is that convenience of walking in, touching and feeling the product, and walking out with it. Instead, what you get is the opportunity to get it home, realize it's not exactly what you want, or in my case, let it sit on the counter for 3 or 4 days. I have a camera I need to return. And then putting it in the box and finally getting it back about a week later. And so what we want to do is provide that space for customers who are not able to use easy access to the internet, maybe between different locations, and they want to be able to get brand name goods. And then also we need our associates still to be able to deliver that, because there is a place for every customer, and not every customer is going to move to this higher echelon of easy online virtual shopping. That's not what it's going to be for everybody. And I think if we take this in the context of being a diverse world, there's many different ways that people experience the internet. So right now, I believe it's like 11% of people are using some type of subsidy to access the internet, and that's a lot. And so if you think about people who have ease of access to the internet to shop, that's not everybody. And so for our customers and for our associates, we're providing them with meaningful work that delivers a product to a customer and gives them an opportunity to see that customer's delight when they walk out of there. And I accidentally went to Ross last week and accidentally bought shoes for my nephew because he wears a 14 and it's a strange, but you know, it's one of those things. I wouldn't have experienced that treasure hunt and gotten him some Nikes if I hadn't walked into that physical store. And so that's really the big difference, that you cannot change with, there's no remote work at home cashiering. If you go to McDonald's or go to any other place, there's nobody remotely doing that. And so you need a person physically there to do it. And to show them why it's important is to reward and recognize them for the work that they do every day. I think we miss out on that opportunity to congratulate people on the things that they do every day that keeps the businesses successful. So.
And Abby, you're in the delivery service, right? I mean, it's kind of the opposite side of things. How do you, and obviously the workload has probably changed for the employees that you have at your company. How do you guys keep the mission clear with your employees and make sure that you're fostering an environment where people can grow and feel like this is the good place to work, that I can find purpose here?
Yeah, so we are the largest logistics company in the world. We have about 180,000 FTE globally in supply chain. And during the pandemic, I think that was a huge aha moment for a lot of us of, wow, we are needed. We already knew we were needed anyways, but COVID was a really big eye-opener of how badly we were needed. And I've never felt so much pride when we worked hard to make sure people were still working, which there was plenty of work, especially because some of our customers are like Kimberly-Clark, toilet paper, Clorox, bleach. What did people need? So I would say that the pandemic really brought forth the purpose, and our purpose is to connect people and improve lives. So I guarantee each one of you here, some product you have used at some point today has been touched by one of our associates. And what we do is we have a foundational program that we send every single person through. They go through it in a day, but they understand how they are connecting people and improving lives. They understand how they're an essential part. And we really make sure that even if you're at like a P&G warehouse, you understand how important each and every role is to get the product to all the consumers here, just like you would need it yourselves.
And I don't know if you guys want to echo in if there's any other examples on how you remain purpose-driven in challenging times at your companies.
Go ahead.
Rachel?
I wanted to chime in. I think we're sort of circling around a definition of purpose, right? And even as we all talked about where we've found purpose in our own work lives, there's a few different elements, right? I can support myself and my family. That's a purpose for working that's incredibly valuable, that is meaningful and deeply felt, right? I believe in what this company does, and so I feel great about doing what this company does. I feel great about my contribution to that, right? Like the work that you talk about around recognizing people for their achievements, or like my personal contribution to achieving this message, my efficacy is a reason why people feel purpose. And then there's also a reason people feel purpose I feel connected to my colleagues. Like I like these people, I'm showing up for them. And I think that for companies to think about each of those is really important. And so I think what I was listening to and wanting to reflect back on was like how complicated this question is. It's really a big job of which of those elements you're going to advance and in what way, and over time help your employees feel all versions of purpose.
Yeah, just weigh in briefly. I mean, I love how you mentioned recognition, Rachel, and you mentioned it as well, Sean. I think one of the best ways to activate someone's connection to their why, the how is through recognition and frequent recognition. It doesn't always have to be the home runs that we celebrate. I think there's often greater utility in, recognizing someone when they didn't get all the way there or they tried. And those are things that can really connect people to their personal why and then also the broader mission of the organization.
Okay, so as we mentioned, the workplace is changing. It is, it's going to change. Technology, the world that we know, we're in conflicts every day. So everybody's job, their companies, they're evolving, right? So with workplaces changing and evolving, how do employees, leaders, and managers juggle the company's purpose with their own individual purpose? So how do we find that sweet spot, that intersection between what the company wants, right, and our employees? How do we foster that? And I guess we can start with Federico on that one.
Sure. I think companies have worked around purpose for a very long time, right? Mission, vision is not a new concept. Nevertheless, we haven't been taught how to do that, because since we go to school, we're taught to focus on objectives, deliverables. You need to do this, it's very short term, and we are all prepared to fit somehow the working machine, right? You go there, you do your work, you come back home. That's how we were taught. Very hard, and this has changed, of course, with time, but it was very hard to get someone to ask you, so what is your purpose? When you're a kid, when you're a teenager, you're asked, you want to be a police, you want to be an astronaut. It's always about a profession, but it's never a purpose. So I think companies need to invest since the moment you start interviewing and defining. I was looking at a job description that says, what's the purpose of this role? It's there, right? Many times it's just a statement. It's just something that even ChatGPT had done. You don't even know where is it coming from, right? Is it meaningful? And how do you connect it with the person's purpose when you're interviewing? How do you talk about purpose in your onboarding? How do you talk about purpose in your performance management, career development? So if you really want to create meaningful jobs, you need to start embedding this idea of why into the whole journey, into the whole story. That's one thing. I think, David, you mentioned something in today's workshop, very interesting. In every story, you have a character, you have a goal, an idea, a dream, and in the middle, there's an obstacle. And I think sometimes people idealize purpose. It doesn't come without obstacles. You know, every great story has a huge obstacle in between. And I think if we teach people to think about the evils they want to embrace, what kind of obstacles I'm okay to have because I understand they're tied up with my purpose. I cannot have this without having that. And opening up that conversation brings in all those elements of our work that sometimes is just stressful, but it's the kind of stress we chose. So this is, I think it's important for companies to bring in.
I love that.
It's a good response. Felt like church a little bit there. That was a good response. Anyone else like to echo in?
I will. I mean, I think that I relate to my own experience. I thought, you know, your purpose was earning more money and having a more impressive title. And for years, I probably chased the wrong things. And I share now from a position of privilege that my purpose is about the opportunity to do interesting work with interesting people. And that can look like lots of different things. It might not even be a job. And so I think you're exactly right. You know, focusing in on purpose rather than a job title or a job description, I think it makes a ton of sense. Yeah.
Okay, so let's move on. You were talking about money.
Yeah,
money is important, right? I'm just saying. Making money is important, and work is the center of most people's financial lives, right? That's how we pay our bills, that's how we survive, that's how we get our kids into the after-school activities. Money is very important. So everyone is looking for ways to feel more financially secure at their jobs. So how can companies be more intentional with regards to supporting workers through some of those unexpected challenges that come up? And financially, inflation, I don't have to read you the headlines, you already know. Gas prices last year, I mean, we've had a number of issues here in the United States and abroad when it comes to handling money crisis. How can we, as workers, connect with our bosses to make sure that we're having a better experience at work and promoting a little bit better financial wellness on the job? Having discussions with that, because money is, I mean, I will say, we go to work, yes, we have purpose, but we go to work to make money. Mm-hmm. So how do we put all that together?
Yeah.
Rachel?
I have so much, like my thoughts about this are so jumbled. Like it's hard for me to, because I feel like, on the one hand, I'm deeply purpose driven. I want to show up at work and care about the mission. And that's what motivates me every day. On the other hand, like, I can't feel that way unless my basic needs are being taken care of. And as you said, like I go to work in order to make sure I can support a family, right? And I think it's easy to lose sight of that those things are deeply intertwined, and that it's if you talk about purpose and you are not doing what needs to be done to pay people well enough to make sure that they have the kind of benefits that allow them to feel safe and secure, they're gonna think all your purpose talk is just a lot of blah, 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 right? Like it's not gonna connect. And the reality is that, you know, in any given year, 60% of Americans are gonna experience some kind of financial shock. Like whether that's somebody in their household losing a job, or a major medical event, or living in the path of a natural disaster. More than half of Americans every year experience something that economists would describe as a shock. And 60% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. And 43% of Americans say, if I experience a shock of $2,000 or more, I got nothing. I just don't know what I would do, right? 14% of Americans don't even feel like they could handle a $500 shock. So I think, you know, there's an opportunity for employers to understand the role they play in the ongoing financial security of their employees, and that if you can do that in a way that circles back to your purpose, there's something really beautiful that could happen, right? So what you want to be able to do is deliver help to people in those moments when they experience a crisis in a way that bolsters the sense of connection from person to person across your company, right? Bolsters the sense of we're all in it together and we're working past these obstacles together, to use your metaphor, right? Or I guess your metaphor from earlier. The metaphor we're all now
That's right.
enjoying, right? So one person I was talking about this was talking about the idea of the moments that matter, right? So the moments when somebody experiences a crisis, if their employer shows up for them in that crisis, that's like a level of loyalty and shared purpose it's hard to get to in any other way. And so, I think employers have often thought our basic job here is, or in the past, they thought the basic job here was wages, maybe health insurance, maybe retirement. Rooms like this have expanded that way of thinking about it so much, right? It's also purpose, it's also connection, it's also recognition, it's also all these other things. And I think we need to expand while also keeping in mind that the finances matter a lot.
I echo that. Everybody familiar with the Maslowian pyramid? So in an organization like retail, where you have a lot of part-time employees making basically whatever the entry level is or a little above that, you have to be really conscious about what your plan is for their growth in the organization. Because at some point, a lot of people will peter out. They'll find it no longer purposeful for them because it doesn't mean anything. If they're not getting the basic needs met from income, food, security, roof, that kind of stuff, it's really hard for, as Rachel said, for them to look at the purpose and go, wow, I'm gonna live this great purpose. And one of the things I'm really proud of about Ross, it's 78% of our leaders in our field, in our stores, are all internally promoted. So that means people who started in these temp positions, seasonal positions, went through the process where we assess them, give them feedback, and help them move forward with the goal, hey, we're expanding. I love the fact that I started with Ross and it was 900 stores, and we just hit just about 2,100 this year. And gosh, 12 years, 13 years. And so every one of those people that's experienced that is experiencing a higher move on the pyramid, where they're now experiencing an impact to their family, impact for themselves, comfortableness in their ability to live every single day. And it's sustainable as long as you let people know that there's opportunities for them to grow. They may not feel that's their long-term purpose, but while you're there, you have to give them the opportunity to grow and develop into other roles so they can see what's available and also experience the benefits more fully of the organization.
And I think it's interesting, media is shrinking, right? Like my industry is shrinking in a different kind of way because people are getting their news in other places. So we don't have as much money, at least that's what the bosses say, we don't have as much money as we used to have. So finding other ways to compensate, childcare, or, giving extra time off work, or, it doesn't necessarily have to be in the form of cash, but just saying, hey, I'm here for you. I hope this helps to alleviate some of the pressures that you have. That's always a step forward. It doesn't have to be just, cold cash. It could be just like, hey, have this extra day off work so you can take care of this.
Yeah.
So let's move on to that. We have so many questions and we don't have enough time. So let me get focused here. So how do companies amp up their bonds with their employees so that everyone from your supply chain folks to your hourly workers to your entry-level associates, so everyone can feel the value that they bring to the table? So are there specific programs or initiatives that your companies have, your groups have, that brings people together and makes them feel like they're a part of a team?
So I'll take that one, and that's why I brought my little prop here too. So we have 10,000 supervisors worldwide, and they touch 70 to 80% of our workforce, which are the folks that are in the warehouse, forklift operators, picking, packing, moving goods. And we just recently rolled out a supervisory academy because we decided that investing in our frontline leaders is number one. They will make the experience for every single person in our company. And they go through the 15 to 18 month program where we focus on a lot of the soft skills around recognition, connection, how to start with why, how to communicate, how to influence. But my favorite part is they are focused on developing and training and making their hourly associates into their successors. So they see, it's not just you pick, pack, and you move stuff. They see our hourly associates as the engine behind what we do. And they understand now that it's not just their purpose to get the stuff out the door, but also their purpose to uplift them and bring them along. And why I brought this passport is because after every time they complete a phase of the journey, they get a stamp. And this really is a nice symbol to recognize this is part of our culture. This is me and my journey. Every single person in the company has one. And you can see as you go along how your journey builds and what that means.
I like that it's physical too. I feel like everything's digital, but like to have something in your hand to say, hey, this is my accomplishment, this is what I've done, this is the training I've gone. I personally like. I mean, digital's cool, but anyone else?
I think for us, it's been the use of our employee resource groups and our business groups, the affinity groups, because when you are together with people who are similar to you or who support you, just seeing yourself reflected in the organization gives you that sense of being a part of something, and I think that makes it very meaningful. I was talking to our COO yesterday, it made me really excited. It was like, I probably would never talk to you if you weren't the executive sponsor of my military network. And it's one of those moments where, wow, I'm getting to talk to you, not to ask for more budget, but to really talk about things that are going on in the organization I probably wouldn't have had, and me and 15 other people wouldn't have had the same opportunity to talk about. And I think the other part of that process that makes it really good is that it then filters out, because then people make those informal networks and they start connecting. So it just kind of happens. And I'm very proud that we are at 51% participation in our ERGs at Ross, because that's well above what other ERG participation is. And we're only 4 years into it. So people are really seeing it valuable. And we have lots of ROI research and surveys that we do to keep ourselves above what they're asking for. And I was telling you today that we did a survey and we were like, they're going to tell us, here's what they want. And it was all about having a sense of community, seeing myself reflected in the company, having a sense of belonging. Then it was like talent development, career goals and stuff. But the top three were really the things that made them feel a part of something.
And, I want to build on that and say one of the ways that you can, there's this really beautiful research around loneliness, and also around, there's some research around helplessness. And actually what helps people to feel less lonely and less helpless is to help somebody else, right? So if you want people who are feeling lonely or feeling helpless to feel more empowered and more connected, like instead of sending somebody to visit them, give them a job to go and visit somebody else, right? Which is I think so heartwarming. And so part of what we're focused on at Canary and that we work on with our clients is, if you're going to set up an emergency fund for your employees, how do you make sure it's this sense of helping, right? Because that's what you want your employees to experience and so we have some clients who are doing a beautiful job of this, where they have really engaged employees across the company to do fundraising drives, to put money into the shared pool for others, right? And they have fun activities, all kinds, right, whatever you can imagine, whether it's competitions from one location versus another, or, the equivalent of a bake sale today, right? Things that people do that enable them to work together to help somebody else are incredibly valuable for creating a sense of community within a group. And I think really important to helping people feel like they are part of a solution. And it also makes it much easier for people when they are then the one who needs help to come and ask for help, because it's not a handout. It's this shared enterprise that we've all engaged in and created a community around. And today I'm on the receiving end, but tomorrow I'm going to be on the giving end.
All right, let's move on to the next question. And David, if you could start with this one. What is the role of managers in connecting the company's purpose to the employee's purpose? So what's the secret sauce in marrying these two together?
Yeah, I think Abby touched on it brilliantly in terms of how their organization is thinking about creating conditions not only so that managers can show up for their frontline and hourly employees, but also so that they're training that next generation. And I love this idea of creating conditions. Whether or not I'm successful at work is not entirely up to me. It's partly up to the organization to create conditions, and then the rest is up to me. We've each been talking today about how we show up, and I think one of the interesting things is that individuals do not feel individually confident that they can manage change. I shared some of this today, that just 28% of employees felt they could manage unexpected, whether it's a financial hardship, whether it's a merger and acquisition, take your pick. And the things that actually drive their ability to manage change, to be resilient, are related to the connection they have to the purpose of the organization, the connection they have to their manager, and the connection they have to their peers. I shared also today that there's something managers can do. There is a bit of a template here, and our research shows that it's frequent contact, frequent recognition, which we've heard a number of times today, coaching and career development. These are the 4 factors that build strong relationships between a manager and their direct report, between their teams, and help people deal with the unexpected.
Federico?
Sure. I think managers need to feel the responsibility of digging in. We talked about feedback today, the responsibility of a manager trying to find out what is it that the person wants. And I think managers have an opportunity to be flexible. When we talk about diversity and inclusion, that means people that have different purposes and you remaining open to them, even if you don't necessarily connect. But for sure, you should be able to connect the whys. So if you have your company, you may have your own as a manager, you have your employee, and how those things connect. And you can authentically, show a path. We also heard today the idea of emotional salaries, right? So I think managers need to understand that the idea of emotional salary is a good thing if you're doing it right, but it's not a trading currency. It's not something you should try to use to leverage so you don't have to do other things. And I think the more you realize as a leader what your role is every day with those people and those conversations, the better you become.
Anyone else with some secret sauce tips on how to connect? No? All right, let's move on to the next topic of discussion. How can a company's sense of purpose go beyond its business so that it encompasses the larger community that it's around? Also to benefit the workers, the community members alike. How do we make sure that the workers and everyone in our neighborhoods nearby get a piece of the purpose pie? So, for example, I work at NBC, right? And so we give out grants and loans to our community to say that we appreciate the work that our nonprofits do here in South Florida. So that's an example of us trying to reach out and share the greater purpose of why we communicate our stories of the day. Are there examples within your organizations where you try to connect to the community, where it gives a better example of the purpose of what your organization does?
Yeah, I'll start with Ross. So if you've ever gone to a Ross opening, you will see the Boys and Girls Club from the area at the Ross opening, because our CEO clearly cannot get to the 100 stores that we open on a single day every year. We will have them cut the ribbon and be a part of that. And we make huge donations to Boys and Girls Club because of our commitment to the youth, because we know that's the future of any community. The other thing is that we are often in underserved communities with our DD's brand as well as Ross brand. And we know that makes a huge impact. About 6 years ago, we reopened the first retail establishment in a part of Oakland that there had been no retailers. The grocery stores left, everybody left, and we came back, and I felt like a hero that day because I had on my blue shirt. People were like, "Are you with the Ross? Are you with the Ross?" And there was a line out the door, and it really is such a simple thing to just be in the space to give people an opportunity to shop and have the same access to goods that anybody else would have. And then we work through our Ross Foundation to partner with charitable organizations across the entire country through regional giving. So if there is something local and regional to the area, they can actually apply for grants that make sense. And we do have a big focus on youth. So if it's something youth-based, it's definitely going to go through that approval process. But we make sure that we are committed, because the last thing anybody wants to do is work for the evil empire, right? You don't want to work for the company that doesn't care, is just taking resources out of the community. And so all of our associates can feel really good about it. And I'm like, also Hawaii, I was flying to Hawaii and I had a blue shirt on back in the day, and people were like, "You're at the Rosses?" And that's when I learned everybody in Hawaii says Rosses and not Ross. And it was a great thing. But when you get that kind of impact and it's positive, you know you're doing the right thing for the community. And especially if you know it means more dollars back into your business, because they've got that favorable image of you and they know they can come there and be welcome.
Something that I'm excited about that we've just rolled out. Anybody a Girl Scout, Cub Scout, former at some point? We just rolled out a partnership with the Girl Scouts of America, and we actually have created a patch about logistics. So we have this relationship where because we're trying to bring more women into supply chain in the logistics field. So it's related to our DEIB initiatives, but also to get to the youth of America. We're bringing them in. We have something special where they can achieve the patch and learn how our business operates. So it's very, I think, unique and fun right now.
I love that.
All right, we're running tight on time, but I wanted to ask this final question, and I hope that each one of you guys could answer it. What's the best way to connect and make workers aware of the positive impact of their work, so they know that what they're doing is important? David, we'll start with you,
Sure,
'cause
I'll
you're
jump
right
in there. That was my thinking face. I think recognition. I think recognition, not just for the home runs that we hit, but for the base hits, for the teamwork. That's one of the ways, and it's not just how often I'm recognized, but what I'm recognized for. Our research shows that in particular, when someone is recognized in a meaningful way, meaning that it's personal, that it's specific, that it speaks to the impact that I've had, that carries great weight for employees. And in particular, when it comes from someone's manager, that carries even more weight. So big surprise. The recognition guy is talking about recognition, but that would be my point.
I would just echo, we've just rolled out a large-scale recognition program where we're making sure that managers are recognizing their employees more frequently and more often, and maybe for some of these seemingly little things, but if they go above and beyond, if they display one of our essentials, which is passion, can do, and right the first time, they get a stamp on their passport. We celebrate and we make sure that people understand that what they're doing matters.
I'll just say celebrate the company's successes with the entire organization. So a lot of times I think associates don't recognize when the company is successful, it's because of their individual work. And so like when we had our 40th anniversary, we did a huge amount of internal marketing to let people know we would not be there without all of them and the contributions that they've made over time. I think that's when people recognize that, or even talking about whatever our financials are, good or bad, making sure people get a part of that and understanding it. It's kind of hard not to do it and stay humble, but if you do it the right way, people will recognize that you are seeing them for their value in that entire process.
Yeah, so I agree with everything that's been said, and I would also add that one of the things, I can't take credit for this as my own thought, but one of the things that I thought was really interesting this morning in one of the sessions was somebody talking about how different people want different things from work, right? So I do think an element of this is really about listening, because if one employee is really motivated by the mission and another employee is really motivated by the opportunity to learn and grow, you have to be able to provide opportunities for each of those individuals and their personalities and their desires, right? So a big piece of helping people to feel connected to the purpose at work is knowing that there's a lot of different on-ramps to whatever your company's purpose is. And that if you're a good manager, you're going to listen to people about what their on-ramp is and help them see how they're accomplishing their own purpose in alignment with the company's purpose.
For me, it's about connecting the dots. I think when you show what the company's doing and you show how those individuals sometimes they don't have a straight line into that. And I'm going to use one example. The company is doing an advertising. You as a company, as a media advertising company, can tell your client to go in different routes. But when you have something powerful that drive that ad, for example, I want to develop underdeveloped communities, and I can use your brand for it, and I can show you a way to do it, and then you prove how that works. And you bring that inside a company and says, look, you are all part of it. You paid the invoice, you hired the person, you did whatever it is. And this is how you are connecting to this big purpose, which is the company's. And then what you just said, if you're open to diversity, you let people know that their purpose is valid, whatever that is, just bring it forward, and it's okay, whatever it is. I can help you bring it forward. As a manager, I think that's the best thing you can do as a company.
All right. Thank you guys for your tips and your gems that you dropped today. Let's give our panelists a round of applause. And it has been my honor to be here to serve as the moderator. Just a quick plug, you can watch me every weekday morning at 5 a.m. to 7 a.m. on NBC6. Thank you.